everybody, and welcome to our very first Echo Live Minisode of 2021. In our Minisode today, we'll be having a little bit shorter of an episode than our regular Echo Live programs, but I'm going to show off one of my favorite science experiments that I have set up right here, and I'm going to set you up for something that you can try at home. So I want to start a series of gravity-defying experiences and experiments that you can try in your home or in your classroom together after we do our quick debrief and overview right here on Echo Live. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead, introduce yourself in that chat feature wherever you are tuning in from. I can see friends starting to join us on Facebook and YouTube Live and right here in Zoom. Let's get started with some science. Now, today we said we'll be talking about something gravity-defying, and I'm going to tie this all back to convection, or the movement of hot and cold substances in chemistry. For this experiment, you'll only need a few items, and I have them all down here on the table. You'll need 4 identical cups. Clear cups will work best, so glass or plastic. I've got 4 of those. I have 2 different colors, food coloring. I have blue and red, and you also need 2 different temperatures of water. So I've been keeping some of my Science H2O in the fridge leading up to our program. And just before we got started, I unplugged my kettle, which has been warming up some water over here. Now for this, you'll need 2 cups of each liquid. And before our episode, I actually just put a couple drops of red food coloring in these first 2 cups. So let's go ahead, add in some water. Now you'll want to fill them all the way to the top, or at least almost all the way to the top, to get the best results out of this experiment. So remember, just like on the sink, when you are washing your hands in the bathroom, red is going to designate cold or hot water. Red is hot, unlike our stars, but just like the sink, red means hot and blue means cold. So I've put a couple drops of blue food coloring into my last 2 cups or beakers prior to starting here today. And we'll just fill those ones almost all the way to the top as well. Now, for this experiment, what we're going to be doing is stacking these cups in various orders. We'll start by stacking our red water on top of our blue water. Remember, red means hot and blue means cold. The final piece of equipment that you'll need for this experiment is some sort of laminated or plastic card. So I just have a laminated piece of paper here in my studio, but you could use a playing card or anything that is not going to absorb water so that you can use it for stacking. So I'm going to go ahead, take my piece of laminated card, put it flat on top of my hot water. And we said in our first experiment, or our first part of our experiment, going to take this beaker, carefully flip it upside down, and you'll notice I'm doing this over a tray so that I try to spill as little as possible. And then we're just going to carefully try and stack our 2 cups. Now, you want to line them up as carefully as possible. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to remove the card in between. Now, you can make a guess if you are tuning in the chat. Tell me a guess or a hypothesis about what do you think will happen when I remove the card that is right now separating our 2 temperatures of liquids. So we've got red hot on top and blue cold on bottom. Tell me what you think is going to happen. And I'm just going to carefully scoot my laminated card off to the edge, making sure that my 2 cups are completely lined up. And we are just going to go ahead and remove that card. So let's see if any of those guesses or hypotheses are correct in 3, 2, 1. And would you look at that? Our red and blue water are staying, for the most part, entirely separate. Therefore, defying gravity in our first gravity-defying experiment of this series. Now, what's really going on, right? We said this ties back to convection. Convection actually works a lot like a lava lamp, which you can actually see on my virtual background behind me. In a lava lamp, when the wax or the liquid in the bottom starts to warm up as it's heated by the lamp, it then starts to rise. So convection tells us that as atoms and molecules rise or heat up, they will rise to the top because they become less dense. As they cool back down, the longer they're away from that heat source, so the farther they get from the lamp in our lava lamp, the colder they start to get. As they cool back down, those molecules will sink back to the bottom. But then they're touching the lamp, so they warm and they reach back up to the top. That process repeats itself over and over and over again, as long as you have two different temperatures of liquids interacting. The same thing happens with our weather outside. We have what we call hot and cold fronts, or hot and cold regions of air that can sometimes come in contact with each other. The reason in this experiment that our two colors stay separate is that we put them in the right spot according to convection. We put the warm water on top where it wants to be, and we put the cold water on bottom where it would like to be. But let's see what happens when we stack them in the opposite direction. So we'll carefully scoot that one off to the side, trying not to disturb it. But let's see what happens this time if we stack the blue or cold water on top. Remember that convection tells us that warm molecules will rise and cool molecules will sink. So if you have a guess about what might happen in our second experiment, when I remove the card, now is the time to type it in the chat. On the count of 3, I'm going to remove our laminated card. And if you took a guess about what might happen in the first one and you weren't expecting them to stay separate, maybe you'll be right this time around. So let's go ahead, let's remove that card, separating our hot and cold liquids in 3, 2, 1. Oh no! We have an entirely homogeneous purple cup of liquid. Our water rushed past each other, just like the air outside does if those hot and cold fronts meet in the wrong orientation. The hot water, which was on the bottom, rose to the top as quickly as it could, pushing past all those blue cold molecules as those cold blue molecules sank down to the bottom. It happened very quickly, which resulted in a nice, beautiful purple mixture of liquid. So remember, this activity is safe to try at home. You can just watch this video again and repeat it for yourself. Show your family, show your friends. And of course, if you complete this experiment at home, make sure you take a picture and send it to me in the chat so that I can see if your results were the same as mine or if they were different. So this has been our very first Echo Live Minisode of the year, and we'll be bringing you lots and lots more of these activities and experiments that you can try at home. But next week will be another one of our full Echo Live episodes. You can catch that one next Wednesday, February 10th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be celebrating Black History Month with a really exciting episode. We'll have a couple special guests joining us here on Echo Live to talk about some of the most amazing and important contributions of Black scientists and inventors. And we'll also be talking about some of that innovation that happens right here in the city of Detroit. So thank you all so much for tuning in for today's Echo Live Minisode episode number 1. I hope I'll see you all back here next week for a full episode. And until then, feel free to let me know any questions